Yeah, you're welcome back. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service. And to kickstart our conversation this morning, let's now listen to a background report on the out of school challenge in Nigeria by Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Nigeria faces a significant challenge in ensuring access to education for its children, with an estimated over 10 million youngsters currently out of school. Nevertheless, the crisis is not just a statistic. It is a complex web of issues varying from region to region. For many families, poverty forces children to work instead of learn. They toil in farms, markets, or homes, their childhoods lost to necessity. Education's cost seems insurmountable. Fees, uniforms, and books are luxuries few can afford. Yet, experts say it is not just about money. Insecurity, particularly in the Northeast, has turned schools into targets and displaced communities. Cultural norms also pose barriers, especially for girls. Despite these challenges, hope exists. The federal government is building more schools, especially in undeserved areas, and has renewed policies and curriculum with NGOs and community groups providing scholarships, materials, and teacher training. Progress is slow but steady. However, tackling the root causes that are poverty, insecurity, and cultural barriers demands a unified effort from government, civil society, and international partners. The question remains, what future awaits Nigeria's children if they are denied education? Will they inherit a brighter tomorrow or perpetrate cycles of poverty and defiance? On today's special episode, we convene a panel of esteemed guests and experts to tackle the tough questions and bring in innovative solutions to bridge the education gap. Join the conversation as we explore the complexities and potential solutions to Nigeria's out-of-school crisis. It is a mission to empower and uplift Nigeria's future generations.
All right, thank you, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu, for that background report. And to get into this conversation, which borders on reducing the number of out-of-school children, let me introduce right here in the studio Honorable Balarabe Shehu Kakale, a former member of the House of Representatives and the sponsor of the bill, now Act for Marjorie and Out-of-School Children Education Commission. It's a pleasure to welcome you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, I have the pleasure of introducing in the studio right now for the discussion Dr. Adeni John. Is the founder, Global Scholarship Trust, and Deputy National Coordinator, West African Civil Society Forum. Dr. John, you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's just kickstart our conversation this morning by looking at the current level of out-of-school children in Nigeria. We have had conflicting figures. Do you have the, let's have the statistics.
Thank you very much. And once again, good morning, Nigerians. The issue of out-of-school children in Nigeria, it's continued to be a serious concern for all stakeholders involved. And we must, tackle it by introducing all kinds of strategies to reduce them. Okay. Even though there are a lot of statistics flying around, but the monster, is staring at our faces with all that has been happening in the society, from the north to the south. You see the scourge of out-of-school children. And there are a lot of things responsible for some of these things. To meet the SDG 4 goal, we must ensure that education is affordable and, of course, accessible, for the children. Even though we have the compulsory education for all, for our children at the basic level. But government needs to do more, to ensure that necessary infrastructures, conducive learning environments, are in place. It's one thing to take children back to school, and it's another thing to retain them. Student retainership is far, far more the process of retaining them in school. We should also be looking at them, because even though we should have a lot of program in place, bringing them in is one thing, and retaining them in that school is another thing. So I would like to stop here.
Retaining them, what you mean retaining them? Is it that the children will come to school and leave, or what can you explain further?
Yes, retaining them, we must, apart from ensuring that we have a conducive learning environment.
Yeah.
So federal government introduced a school feeding program. We must be able to sustain this. Okay. So a lot of incentives has to be introduced. Most of these children we are talking about, they are from the poor background, and most of their children don't have, and most of their parents don't have job that they are doing. So we must sustain it. It's one thing to say you give free education. What about the transportation? For example, in some communities very close to even Abuja here, there is no public school. So children have to travel a long distance. So breaking those educational barriers, is one of the things that we must do to retain them. Even though if you introduce program, you bring them to school, like free transportation, which all stakeholders can come into it, because in other climes where we have this, these are not left to the government alone. You see NGO through their corporate social responsibility donated to community. You see individuals, philanthropists, sustainably, contributing to such development. Different forms of endowment funds, can be raised to sustain it, because government cannot sustain it. We all know the current education, economic challenges we have in Nigeria. So all hands must be on deck to ensure that we sustain this, returning our children back to school.
All right. Honorable Adeniyi John, thank you very much for your opening salvo. Let's get to Honorable Shehu Kakale. I just want to get a deeper sense of what the issues are. Why do we have this much in terms of number out of school children? Is it poverty? Is it because there are no schools? Is it because of ignorance? What are the factors? And at what point did you determine that it had become important to mobilize support for what we now have as the Amajiri School and Out of School Children Commission?
Well, there are multiple factors. Multiple factors that have a long history since true colonialism up to where we are. To tell the truth, the Nigerian education policy and education systems all over the years have been exclusionary and heavily colonized. And because of that exclusion, that's why a lot of people do not go to these formal conventional schools. We have failed, over the years to bring up an inclusive system of education where, the nuances or the peculiarities of communities and societies are factored in. And well, time has brought us 21st century to where education, of course, is rapidly changing. Now, it's not all about, children being put in a full-cornered classroom with a teacher in front of a board. Digital education is also there. So there are sections of societies and communities all over the world, and in Nigeria is not an exception, that do not buy into, the structured system of education that we have in Nigeria. And one of those huge chunks is the Almajiri group of, education systems. It has been there for a millennium. And of course, in other communities, faith-based educations, whether in the Christian faith or in the Muslim faith, there are many other forms of educational systems that have not been included into Nigerian educational policy. So those people have refused to accept that. So one of the main reasons why we have people that have not been able to key into our education system. Secondly, a lot of people view our education system over the years as just, teaching literacy. No skills, no functional education. And then you could just come back with certificates that cannot offer, tangible change in your life or in what you aspire to be. You know, bringing up the syndrome now of pass and forget, or fake it or forge it. So all of these things and many others, you know, has brought it to where we are. The National Assembly, the National Assembly that I was in, we were able to come together and have a team of legislators who really think education should really be universal and liberalized. And with that at the back of our mind, we went ahead to formulate this bill and push through the barriers of either misunderstanding, suspicions, or whatever, to bring on board that element of patriotism and unity and national cohesion among all of us, to democratize education, to decolonize education, so that education, you know, will be all-encompassing, all types, all backgrounds, all forms, all styles. So for me and many of us, we believe Almajiri is a system of education that has refused to be recognized since colonial times. But it's been there for over a million, as I've told you. For northern part of the country, you know, it has produced all that you can think of: the judges, the administrators, businessmen, name them. And even, you know, in other pre-colonial systems and states of Africa, be it, you know, the Oyo Empire or the Benin Empire or the Ghana Empire, they have their systems of education. And now these people came and decided through an edict to declare everybody in Africa as an illiterate. And then you must drop all your systems of education and pick up, you know, the colonial system where you must speak English. Of course, English is not a language. It's never a test of intelligence or capacity. But unfortunately, this form of education has made people to think that unless you speak English, you are not educated. So the bill and the establishment of the commission is part of the federal government's effort, as I've said, to truly make education universal, so that everybody will key in and make it functional, productive, and industry or resource-based. You know, the commission is all out to provide skills, innovations, entrepreneurship, and vocational training for Nigerian kids. Not just A for apple, B for ball, and the rest of it. A is going to be for agriculture, as far as, you know, the new reforms in education is concerned. B can be for beans, you know, B can be for bull, or B can be for anything that's quite local and people can really understand. So it's all a part of the reforms in education that the federal government is really, really committed on, to make education productive, to make it functional, and to really take into consideration the peculiarities of communities and societies in Nigeria, so that they accept the form of education they accept this education as a way to contribute to your quota to the development of a nation, and not just get certificates and go roaming about looking for jobs. We want to be providing or training job creators, not job seekers, as they have always said.
Is the commission living up to its billing, though? Yeah,
the commission is very new. It's the youngest commission that you know, and there is a lot of work to do. And that's why, for example, he talked about data. We don't have data. Even our children are in school. You know, talk less of those who are out of school. And it's a systemic, endemic problem in this country, even, you know, from constitutional basis. The local governments, you know, tier of government, and the National Population Commission is responsible for registration of birth and death. But they have not been doing this. We don't even know how many babies are born in Nigeria yearly, or how many deaths we have, and then what's the actual size of our population, where we are, who we are, what we are doing. So what all the data being given are just extrapolations. We went to MBS to tell us what are the exact numbers of out-of-school children. They don't know. So this commission is all out to first and foremost get a verified or verifiable and true data of children who are out of school age, where they are, what's their demography, what's their distribution, what they are engaged into. And let me tell you, most of those children in Nigeria that they, in quotes, call out of school, they are not really out of school. They're in a school. They're in skill schools. One of the arguments we had when I was in the National Assembly is, for example, you have our children, young children in Ariere Market in Aba in southeastern Nigeria. you know, who are so skillful. They make suits, they make shirts, boots, belts of international standard. They export them, but just because they don't speak good English, they call them out of school. They are not out of school. As far as I'm concerned, they're in a school. Their skill sets are so important that they are contributing to the GDP of the country. And they are also employers of labor. So what you do is add numeracy and literacy to them and give them their certificates. A young boy who is in a shop in Onitsha, you know, an apprentice in a shop that can, you know, break deals, you know, of hundreds of millions of naira, you know, daily, clearing goods all over the world, you know, getting his books right, balancing his accounts, employing doctors and professors to do jobs for him, but he's out of school or he has not been to school because he doesn't. So scale that up, add numeracy and literacy by either digital education or, you know, a part-time education, and you give him a certificate. That will boost their morale and their esteem that, yes, they are educated. And it will also add to the numbers and statistics of economic, you know, indices of this country. And for the Almajiri, they can read, they can write Arabic, they have a curriculum, they have a pedagogy, but just because they are not taught in English, they are called out of school. It's very wrong. Then take, for example, the Montessori system of education, the Catholic Montessori, and many others. So this whole idea is to really rebrand and our entire psyche about what education is all about. I've learned from education is that there are over 100 definitions of education. But in Nigeria, what essentially we have been doing is literacy. No skills.
Okay.
No innovation. No creativity. We have to change that.
Okay, so you've mentioned a lot of types, different types of education that you talked about, the Almajiri system of education and others, which you said they need to be inclusive as well. So how do we, because you just mentioned a bit of it, how to integrate them into the formal education system? How do we go about that?
See, it's not integrate them. In their own standing, they should also be formalized. The long title of the bill is National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Education, that is meant to recognize or provide for multimodality of education. We believe in the National Assembly that, you know, the birth of this legislation, that Nigerian system of education is unimodal currently. We should have multimodality of systems of education. Multimodality, there should be different models. You know, in one of the European countries, I think whether it's UK or somewhere, they have 8 models of education, and they have 8 set of basic examination bodies at secondary school level, and in all of them you are certificated, and then you go and employ yourself and create jobs. But in Nigeria, it's only, you know, the standard either WAEC, NECO, or well NAPTEP and MBIS. We should have more, you know, and most of this, except probably NAPTEP, is all about your ability to speak English. No skills, no innovation, no creativity. So multimodal. So Almajiri is going to be recognized as a system of education. You know, we want to read and write in Arabic and learn skills in your Almajiri school. Then add to the curriculum, of course, English language, because it's a formal, it's the official language in Nigeria. Then add arithmetic and get your primary school certificate or certificate that's equivalent to primary school. Your skill sets will be graded and they will be awarded a certificate at that point. And thankfully, the National Board for Technical Education is really doing a lot of work on that. There's what they call recognition of previous learning. Once you have a skill and you have creativity, regardless where you got it, they scale it and give you your certificate. And then with that certificate that's equivalent to, say, a basic primary certificate, you go on with your life. It's not everybody that must do a degree. In the world, we're around 7 billion people, now 8 billion. Less than 5% have degrees. Degrees is not it. I believe degrees are being oversubscribed and they're overhyped in Nigeria.
Yeah, they are overhyped, but you know there is also this stigma that you know, if you don't go to the formal, you know, system of education, this stigmatization is there associated with people that no, you're not educated, so you don't have that formal education. You can attain to, you know, a certain height you know. So how do you correct that imbalance?
That's that's what I'm saying. Now, the Federal Ministry of Education and this commission,
Yeah.
is currently working on curriculum and other structuring of systems of awarding certificates of education. So if you have your skill sets, you are creative, there is a criteria that that your skill sets, for example, will be graded. Add numeracy in your training and literacy, and then you'll be awarded a certificate that will be equivalent to a basic primary school certificate or beyond the secondary certificate. And thankfully also, the Federal Ministry of Education has done a lot in what they call the ABP, Accelerated Basic Education, ABEP, Accelerated Basic Education Program, where, the curriculum, the time and everything are contracted to deliver a basic primary education in 2 years for instead of 6 years of primary schooling. And most importantly, it's meant to bridge the mismatch of the massive population growth vis-a-vis the education resources that are available. So the ABEP, Accelerated Basic Education Program, has been approved by the Federal Ministry of Education and it's been implemented, where the curriculum are highly filtered to really provide knowledge that will help the typical Nigerian 21st century needs for development. So honestly, I want to repeat, education should be liberalized, education should be decolonized, and it should be democratized. We cannot say it's only when you go to a forward class. More so, the teacher standing in front of the board is going through a transition. The digital and e-learning, it's really going to change a lot of things.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kakale, for your explanation there. So let's come back to Dr. John now. Earlier on, you said education should not be left to government alone, and that other bodies should also be encouraged to come into education. So how do we begin to engage parents, guardians, community leaders to support education in this country?
All right, before I go directly to answering your question, I would like to say that government needs to do more.
Okay.
There's a lot of infrastructural deficits. Now, when you are saying that you want to take children back to school, whether formal education or non-formal education, where are the classrooms?
Yeah.
Where are the infrastructures? The other time in FCT, we had that about 100 and something or 1,000, I can't remember now, children will be returned back to school. Then the question is, where are the schools? Currently, we have schools that are not well furnished. Now, you need to incentivize education, whether formal or informal. Because it is when you incentivize it, you create an enabling environment for me that I can decide to go. You bring me to a place where there is no fan. You bring me to a place where there are no adequate infrastructures. You give me to a place where teachers are not well trained. You bring me to a place where teachers are not motivated. How do we want the learners to comprehend learning? So there's a lot. There's a lot, like the ES said, fine, there are a lot of plans here and there, but if you go to our communities, you'll be ashamed to call yourself a Nigerian by looking at some of our schools, not all. Even though government is trying their best to create some model schools, we have done some like cosmetic development in school where you just look at the selected areas in urban areas and set up some schools and say, oh, we have established model school here, but go to our communities. So government needs to increase infrastructure and equip our schools. If you go to the north that ES is talking about, go to Kogi, for example, you see schools is that type of, you can't put even your own children, you can't put them there. Such a child, nothing will attract him or her to learn, whether formal education or informal education. Let's bring it out to vocational training. Except for few, for example, I'm aware in FCT we have a Department of Mass Literacy, where in all the 6 area councils they have vocational skills center. But go to those places today, and go and check yourself. Go and check the infrastructure, whether people can really access it. So we need to encourage, the learners to go. In, what's it called? Nyanya there's a community called Old Custom Quarters. There is no single community school. There is no single community school and public school there. So the children will have to trek. So ES also talked about, that English is not a measure for intelligence. Yes, that is accurate. But when we have this curriculum, or when we are teaching these children informal education, where is the curriculum? The vocational trainings that we are giving our children, have you benchmarked it to be international standard? Even the national skill framework that has been developed by NBTE, are they recognized by Nigerians? Are they recognized by organizations in Nigeria? If you ask me to go to Monotechnic to learn vocational program, after I am done, how many companies, for example Toyota, can absorb some of our children and say, okay, we're going to give them employment, because the certificate has not been benchmarked to international standard? Then who is doing the skill assessment or doing the skill gap assessment after their training? They won't have the expected skill if the teachers are not well trained, because you cannot teach what you don't have. Now, coming back to your question that what is it that community leaders, our parents, can do? First, parents must be adequately paid. Pay parents their wages when it is due. When parents are not owed salary, they are able to pay what? Pay their children school fees, because
Not all of them are government workers.
Yes, I'm going there. Do you understand? So parents also need to encourage their children. They need to be involved, because the greatest teacher of all time are they are the parents. From home, you have to teach them. The parent must not leave education to house help at home, because that is what is fast becoming. You see, you and I, very early in the morning, we are out. The worst part of it is even the fathers. Most fathers don't ask their parents, what did you do in school today? But thank God for our mothers. They check their assignment and so on and so on. Then community leaders, the traditional rulers, have a key role to play, by bringing their subject together. And government, in their own way, they said any child that is hawking in the street, should be criminalized. But go to our various expressway, you see people hawking underage. I was in the forum where they launched educational law. I read the law. One of the laws says that they should not see a child, below a certain number of age on the street hawking. But go to that state today, it's happening. So the poverty level, is also a major factor, because most of our parents, because when I was growing up, I used to hawk. I'll hawk with an understanding, maybe because my parents, have some level of education. They still believe that once I finish hawking, I must go to school. But some parents, some families today, they cannot even afford to feed. They will tell their children, most especially girl child, please let your brother go to school first. You go and hawk, go and do this. And that such child will never go to school. Then another thing, early marriage. And that is very, paramount in the North. The traditional ruler must speak to this. We must speak to this, that look, don't give your child in early what? Marriage. Because it's also affecting, out of school. The problem of out of school.
But some will argue that early marriage doesn't mean that the child doesn't go to, well, I'm not saying child now. Early marriage doesn't mean that the woman can't go to school.
Yes, that is the reorientation that we must give our people. You may know that, but I'm particular in, we have the indices, very high indices in northern part of the country. The traditional rulers must be engaged and say, look, we don't want to see. We are not happy with what is happening in the northern part of the country today. And everybody in northern Nigeria now, of course, Nigerians must wake up. If not, will all be consumed. Will all be consumed. And regulation of childbirth can also reduce what? Out of school. We need, the traditional rulers must speak to this.
How much of an issue is that? Fertility rate, that is. How much of an issue is fertility rate that you're talking about? When it comes to out-of-school children, how much of an issue is that?
It's a long issue because it's a very big issue. Even in this economy, if you give birth to 3 children, you are going to hear when, if you understand that. But somebody somewhere is planning to give birth to 20, 30, and have 6 children. So we should have birth control. We should have birth control. So before we begin to talk about we are bringing children, but let's also control what? Births.
Which means that you have to involve the religious
leaders traditional
as well,
leaders.
Because it has to do with culture
and religion. So all this religious sentiments, because I call it, in those days, like my grandfather married 3 wives, and he has a purpose for that, just to,
farm work.
And all of us, we live in harmony. And then you can go to farm, have enough harvest, we don't have banditry, you don't have Boko Haram, you can even sleep in the farm, and nothing will happen. But those things, they have gone. So we need to reorientate our people. The traditional ruler needs to come out. There should be a town hall meeting concerning this issue. They are major contributors. And the elites must wake up at all levels. Because sometimes when the elites, when they see that people get to know, they try to deceive them with a lot of conspiracy, a lot of theories. Most time when I think about what is happening, I'm not from the north, but I'm always not happy because we can do better. So let us go back to traditional ruler from the north to the south. Sit them down. Let's look at religious matter. What is our religion saying? Can this current dispensation absorb this, our sentiments? So, and we have it in some other countries that you must not, because you have to control. And federal government should also begin to look at this. If not, the little resources that federal government is looking for will not be able to go around. We have a lot of social investment out of school, feeding program. It's not affecting everybody. So the parents must be part of it. The teachers also must be part of it. Teachers should be well paid. Teachers should be well paid. And the government must also try to recruit the right teachers to train our children, whether formal or informal. You find out that, you still have some secondary school students today that are not trained as a teacher, qualified teacher, to teach our children. All these things is a major factor. So I believe in vocational training, but the curriculum should be structured. Because you ask in your question, you said, how do we integrate this?
Yeah.
Because whatever we're going to do, it must be integrated. As far as I'm concerned today.
System.
Yes, as far as I'm concerned today, if you don't go to school, nobody will recognize you. And like this program we are doing today now, it has not been translated to any major languages of that we have in Nigeria, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. Maybe it will be transcribed. So as far as we're still concerned, our official, language that everybody can easily comprehend with. But however, like he has said, every region have peculiarity. So let us begin to look at, in the north, what can we do? I used to tell people, if people from the north believe in an Nigerian system of education, let us do it. We must not train them in English. There are universities in the Middle East, in the MENA region, that these children can be trained, even looking at the curriculum we're already using, to train them, and from there they can migrate. Then they come back and be better citizens and impact our society. So parents, the government, the traditional ruler, religious ruler, religious leaders must be able to do more than enough, and enough of these lip services. And we say, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. We just need to shift from that.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. John. Dr. Kakale, I want to ask you, because you talked about the different sets of education, like the Al-Majri, Islamic education and all that.
Montessori,
Yeah, so
vocational,
what
popular.
role can all these, play in promoting literacy and skills development?
A lot. Let me tell you, the current Nigerian economy, a vast huge of it is maintained by small and medium scale enterprises, and most of them are in vocational skills and are entrepreneurs and the rest. So the literacy you are talking about, I want to tell Dr. John, that's why we said, the entire, intent and the import of this bill is to decolonize education. He says something like, nobody respects you if you're not educated. What is the definition of that education? It just,
what he said is if you cannot express yourself in English, because
that's very wrong.
Because the formal.
That's very wrong. If he has
mode
been to
of
China or he has been to Germany, you walk kilometers without meeting anybody speaking English. Is just a language, for God's sake. The English, give it to English. It's a language of international communication. It's a language of international business. It's a language of science and technology. Yes, but the language for growth and development is our own indigenous languages. Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, TV, Jukun, Ishekiri, Fulani, Kanuri, and the rest. We can't continue to say you must speak English before you can. In South Africa, they have 9 official languages. It's not only English. Imagine in Nigeria, we have English and then French as official languages. None of our major languages is an official language. Why? Why am I afraid, for example, speaking English? I would have loved to speak in Hausa. The major communities that I want to communicate to understand me better in Hausa. If not that, of course, it's our official language. Honestly, none are Hausa than Dengue. And that's what our people will understand better. And then he kept saying that, when our skills are not benchmarked by who? By who? If it's Nigerian standard, so be it. Who benchmarked, Bill Gates or Zuckerberg or Elon Musk to do his spacecraft? Nobody. He benchmarked it with technicians. With Al-Majri, in their onset, they're Al-Majri out-of-school guys. They have never been to college. The touted America that we are talking about being the bastion of education, they had 2 presidents that never went to school. 2 American presidents were never in school. So even the issue of saying that we have to integrate, main thing is to mainstream it. Let me tell you, Nigeria, you do not need any sophisticated certificate to be the president of the Federal Republic. All you need is a school certificate, even primary school certificate, because English is not it. All you need is there in the Constitution. All you need is school cert. And it didn't even specify whether it's primary or what, but not the basic is primary school. So please, all of this international, who are those international people that will come here and send that thing? We send them ourselves. If we can have children that can build cars, build houses, do furniture, construct CNG tanks and convert cars, and then the training we want to do, as I've always said, is we don't want them to be looking for jobs. Dr. John said, who will give them jobs? We don't need anybody's job. They will be the ones creating the jobs. Let me use this opportunity to commend the federal government, right from President Obasanjo's time, that for the investment they have done in the education sector. Even though education is a concurrent list, particularly basic education, is in the purview of states. Our state governments, most of them are our problems as far as out-of-school children are concerned. They are not doing their bit. The combined budget of all Nigerian state governments and education is less than 2 trillion naira. But the federal government alone is over 2 trillion. Let me give you an example. This is, for example, the UBEC Act. 20 years ago, 2004, it was promulgated during Obasanjo time. Most states meet their commissions of education or their boards of SUBEBs, state UBEC. They don't know about this act. It's one of the shortest acts that we have, just 16 sections. Hundreds of billions have been invested in primary education through UBEC. 2% derivation is the funding of UBEC given to states, but you don't see nothing. They just, the governors usurp it up. They only give contracts, phantom contracts. Books are not provided. The furniture are not provided. So the main problem is with the state governments. I'm telling you, not all of them. A lot are doing, much on it, but a lot of others, particularly in the north. Federal government have brought on an agency, Al-Majri and out-of-school children education. And this government, the federal government, is doing a lot on it to really, as I've said, liberalize education, get everybody on board, make education truly universal, all forms, all types, all backgrounds, all styles. Let them be formalized. You don't have to integrate it into the formal, into the conventional classroom that you go and teach ABCD. No. Where you are, our youth in Ariaria Market, in Aba, in Onitsha, in Kano, Singa Market, you know, for example, those who do animal husbandry, those who do knitting, you know, the makeup artists are women who do lele, kiso, and the rest. Meet them where they are, you know, grade up their skills, put them under ABEP, that's Accredited Basic Education Program, and then give them their certificates, and they will be part of the, you know, inclusive economic growth of this country. So everybody must go to a forward correct classroom. It's impossible, please. It's impossible.
All right. Thank you very much.
The government does not have the resources. The teacher, you know, and the human resource for teaching and equipment are not there. And our state government, the governors need to do more.
They need to do more.
Thank you. And hopefully the governors are listening. But we have now been joined on a conversation from Kano by Executive Chairman of the Quranic and Islamia Schools Management Board, Aminu Hassan. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
You all, I'm happy to meet you today on this program.
Right away, what's your take on the number of out-of-school children? What would you attribute it to? And where lies the solution?
School children is a issue of fundamental issue whereby it has been trying to overcome over it. But what we are obtaining as far as out of school children as concerned, as Kano said is concerned, the government is trying its best to find a lasting solution toward these out of school children. Because we can say that there are some schools that are called modern Sangaya schools in Kano State. And those modern Sangaya schools, sometimes we try to get any student that is out of school to be converted and trained, teach there as a normal conventional secondary schools. We have them in the various local government within the Kano State. But government is in right position to contribute toward the reduction number of out-of-school children as far as this issue of out-of-school children is concerned. But what we are trying to put or consider is the out-of-school children are children that normally they go to some Islamia schools or secondary Sangaya schools or modern Sangaya schools, primary schools. Top. The only solution or find a way of improving is government has to come in and put more effort toward it so that we can get forward and reduce the number of out-of-school children. But drastically, with reference to the present government, it has made a plan, or is on the plan is on the pipeline. Almost 85% of it is almost on completion. To find a way, a committee has been set up to find a way whereby the remaining student pupils or children that are out of schools, they should be catered for and keep away and reduce drastically the number of pupils out of school out in Kano State.
Okay, Mr. Hassan, thank you so much for your opening remarks there, but I still want to stay with you. You are the Executive Secretary, Quranic and Islamia Schools Management Board in Kano. And here this morning, we've talked about, different forms of education. Like he talked about, the Almajiri system of education, the other, the skills acquisition and all that. I just want to ask you, what role can Islamic education or play in promoting literacy and skills development?
Islamic, right from the history, Islamic education, it promotes literacy and give a means of chance to those that at least it has its own formal way of reading and writing. And it trains not only children that are not well-to-do, but the children that are even out of school. They go to the Islamic studies. We have some minor skills acquisition that is being put, especially within the system of this government currently. Minor skills acquisition that is being practiced in most of the Islamia schools, and that is, as I have told you in the past, we have modern Islamia schools in which they are trained a small skills acquisition, minor, like mat making, shoes making, and other skills that will contribute toward the progress of the state and to reduce the quite number of students, the children out of schools. But toward the literacy, as far as Islamic education is concerned, I believe it guides and promotes unity and understanding, and even give a sort of training to those that are within the state, and even those that who came from the neighboring state. They were being placed in a quiet atmosphere whereby they can learn and they can train other children.
Aminu Hassan, let's get back to the studio. We'll get back to you in the course of the program and get to Dr. Adeni John. The world is said to be a global village now. We are in the digital age. How might we leverage technology to mitigate the growing concern of out-of-school children?
All right, thank you. Definitely, technology have a major role to play because we are in a technology area, and from governance to education, business, we're all embracing technology. As a matter of fact, if you are not technologically inclined, it's as good as you are not doing anything meaningful currently. Because as we are, the man from Kano was able to connect to us because of technology. So technology must play a major role. And thank God for the exposure so far. The youths, the children, even 2 years old child now can operate smartphone. There's this belief from one quarter that maybe our great-grandparents are the one coming back now. That because the rate at which it is our children are getting used to smartphone, you wonder who is teaching them. So technology can play a major role, and the way it's going, we need to focus on it. Like he has said, vocational training, in such area, we must increase our efforts. And not just increasing our efforts, but adequately equipping the centers to train these children. He mentioned the Facebook owner, the TikTok. It is because they have enabling environment, sustainable infrastructural development. You see, and maintenance culture. It's one thing to equip a place. It's another thing to maintain those things to be sustainable. So we can begin to look at it, not just to just do it on a surface and say we are true. So technology is playing a lot of, and there are a lot of platforms these days that even vocational training we can engage out of school children, and at the end of the day, they can be integrated into the society and earn very big. So technology is actually playing a lot of roles to ensuring that children are out of school can be encouraged, engaged in ICT through artificial intelligence, through coding. Every holiday you see children go for coding classes and so on and so forth. So, but there's something that I want to mention. Insecurity too is a major contributor to out of school. Government should work on insecurity. It's only a place that is safe, whether vocational or formal, that you can send your children to. You know what is happening in the East. I was in the East sometimes ago, about 2 weeks ago. They said, sit at home will be from Monday to Tuesday. So how do I release my child? I visited the university for accreditation. Immediately I packed my load because I don't want to stay one day extra. Because if I'm catch up with such a problem, I will stay there 2 days. So you can imagine insecurity, and it is a major contributor, most especially in some part of the country, in the north, and we need to wake up to that. You go to our schools, no perimeter fencing, and the Ministry of Education must make it as a matter of compulsion that before you build a school, I know some private schools are doing it, but public schools, most of them don't have perimeter fencing. And the policy on school safety, must be implemented fully, not just to put 2 civil defense people in front of the school without arm. Because Nigeria is now volatile. A lot of things are happening. Even the children that we are returning back to school, they are now more sophisticated than ever because of a lot of things that are flying on social media. Everybody wants to make money quickly. So insecurity, the government needs to look at the insecurity proper. If not, all the efforts of government will be put into jeopardy if insecurity is not well tackled.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. John. Let me bring in Dr. Kale now. You talked so much about inclusive education, and I want us to look at the children with disabilities. How do we bring them in? Because we see a lot of them on the streets. They seem not to be, included. They are neglected. So what do we do?
Well, there's an existing act on national, also a commission for people with disability that has made it mandatory to provide infrastructure for access and also learning methods and materials that will, make sure that people with disability are captured. I'm sure that commission is currently doing a lot in that direction to make sure schools, for example, have ramps, have digital and as well as pedagogy that has to do with those people that have disability. And it also boils down to issue of advocacy, enlightenment, and reorientation. And let me use this opportunity to thank the ES of the National Commission for Al-Majri and Out-of-School Children, Dr. Muhammad Sani Shatimu Ilmu Borno, for the huge work he's doing on data, on issues of data of these out-of-school children in Al-Majri, and on issue of digitalization of Al-Majri system of education and the out-of-school system of inclusive education with the vocational entrepreneurship and creative training. We have been on a tour of states in southern part of the country, meeting traditional institutions, religious leaders, stakeholders, market women, youth groups, CSOs, and some governors. Honestly, the reception is massive. The interest and passion is massive. Everybody wants to see, a sustainable and homegrown solution to this issue of out-of-school children and the Al-Majri phenomenon. Everybody is going to be included. The one we talk about Al-Majri, a lot of people think, it's only the boys. No, even the girls, the Al-Majri girls or the girls who are out of school, So the ES with the Commission and the Federal Ministry of Health are working hard on a new reformed curriculum that will fit into the peculiarities and needs of this set of Nigerians across all, demographics. In the south, for example, those who are in the creeks and riverine areas, those who are in our markets, children on motor parks, children on the streets, children, in other spaces, whether under bridge or wherever, and then up in the north, of course, as well, the Almajiri, the IDPs, and many others, to find a curriculum of functional and productive education that will fit into all of the needs of these people. And of course, deploying the national policy on language policy of the country. It might interest you to know that in 2022, I think 2023, the federal government issued a guideline on national policy, language policy, where the immediate language of surrounding communities or the indigenous language of Nigerians or the mother's tongue is to be used as language of instruction in basic education, not English.
Yeah.
So because, once you're able to transfer, the education they were talking about is just knowledge now done in a structured manner and an organized manner to add value, efficiency, and productivity. So what we really want to continue to tell people is, even if somebody has not gone to a formal school where he's taught English and went through primary 1 to 6 and getting certificate, please, he is not uneducated. He's not an illiterate. Almajiris are literate. They can write and read in Arabic. So who says they are illiterate? I disagree with that totally. I do not believe Almajiris are out of school. They are in a school that our system have refused to recognize for over 60 years or beyond, that follow colonial time. And it was a racist, discriminatory agenda of the colonialists. We have to understand that. Because in the 1930s, British colonies all over, when they realized we have our own indigenous system, knowledge systems and education systems, whether in Sokoto Caliphate, Borno Empire, the Oyo Empire, the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, just to subvert the African population and peoples to their own whims and caprices, they decided to bring about an edict and declare everybody in Africa illiterate. How could you go to Benin, for God's sake, meet an advanced culture and civilization that make bronzes, indoors, metalworks, sculptures, that are so defined to the, to whatever proportions you think of human structure. They have an agricultural system and you declare them illiterate. How could you go to Oyo Empire or the Sokoto Caliphate or the Borno Empire and then you declare them illiterate? Anyway. That was the foundations of where we are today. In countries that rejected that wholesale idea of British system of education that is only meant to produce job seekers and civil servants that are going to work as clerks for them, they have gone far beyond us.
All right.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll take a break now.
It's always Indonesia.
Let's just pause you there. When we come back, you continue from where you stop. We'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. This is still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and we've been discussing how to reduce the number of out-of-school children in the country, a growing concern. But let me get to Honorable Kakale. Earlier, you were talking about, how you can digitize and make bigger efforts to ensure that education, say in the North, other forms of education can be brought on board and not just Western education. I do know that during the Jonathan era, there were a lot of schools built. And someone was asking, what has become of those? If we say there are no schools or there are no infrastructure, what has become of all of those that were constructed at the time in support, in recognition of the Amajiri school system, now that we seek, to revamp?
Well, let me start with your last question. Let me commend former President Jonathan and of his administration also for, for that huge investment in education. But, it was an intervention program. And it was during the tail end of his administration where Almajiri schools were built all over Nigeria, around 157 of them. But there was no structured administrative program to hand them over, to manage them. They're handed over to states, and of course the states abandon them. As I'm talking to you, a lot of them have been converted to whatever, some handed over to some institutions that has nothing to do with schools. So the real change now is that there's an established act and a commission to manage out of school and almajiri. So there's
Which
a
should
legislation.
inherit those schools.
Yeah, of course, it's even the second schedule of the bill or of the act. All the 150 schools are going to be under, exactly spelled out in section 16, are going to be responsible to the commission. So the commission is going to all take them back and revitalize them to put them to proper use. Then going to issue of digital education, as I've said, the Almajiri Out of School Children Commission is coming with a brand of all-inclusive education, a truly universal education, and mainly, of course, using the e-learning system and platforms to bridge the gap, infrastructure gap, because at the rate we are going, the resources available for education cannot provide enough teachers, classrooms, and other infrastructure to get all schools, all children, really having quality education. So digital education is in a form and presentation that's acceptable to all class of Nigerians or children. It's really going to be in place. And that's why, for example, we have this kind of a low slate, that has a computer on it. It's part of the, for example, Smart School Initiative of UBEC, where if you have a highly specialized teacher in one section of the country or one section of a state, he can be given instructions and teaching and learning lessons to other tens of thousands of children all over the country where they have these slits, because they will just connect. I have a friend, for example, who is in the private sector and have a school where they use this Starlink satellite system in each local government. They mount one, and then they transmit their lessons to all the children or all the students in that area, So from their studio, they can reach 10, 20,000 children all at once, particularly for highly specialized subjects. So this is one of the area that the Commission and the ES is really working hard on digital and e-learning to reach as much children as possible in the language and other methods that they understand better. And I repeat, the main thing is to get Nigerians key in to the economic development of this country. It's not all about getting every one of them to the university. Those who can get to the university, fine, but let more Nigerians be literate in whatever form of education or model they are in. But English being our official language, you add English and any other international language, be it French, be it Arabic, be it Chinese, and then add numeracy, and then give them their certificate, and then they will be on their own. In the last one of the interactions we did about countrywide artisanal account, we have estimated Nigerian artisans, entrepreneurs, and all those classes they call out of school and nowadays, if they are well documented and structured, they can add up to 20 trillion naira annually into the Nigeria's GDP. That's almost the Nigeria's budget. They are hardworking, they are not lazy, they are multitasking. They don't lay back with a paper certificate looking for jobs. They don't do it. I'm telling you, they are the real Nigerians. It's not, they don't wait for white-collar jobs. They are ready for blue-collar jobs. Plumbing, mechanic, name it.
So it's the artisans.
The artisans. We need to, wherever they say WAEC, these people have passed WAEC in this state, these are the ones that passed NEGO, and then they make hula-baloo about, please, what about those that have not done WAEC or NEGO? Are they not also Nigerians? Are they not, don't they have a part? They have. Not every citizen must go to secondary school. Please.
Okay. All right. Dr. Kakale, thank you so much for your contribution there. So let's go back to Kano, where we still have the Executive Secretary, Quranic and Islamia School Management Board, Aminu Hassan. I want to ask, with all this, do you think we still need more policy reforms, to address the root causes of out-of-school children and almajiri?
To address the root causes of out-of-school children and almajiris, I think is one way. One, our commission as Islamic and School Management Board, we have made a call sensitization visit to most of the schools, Islamic schools within Kano State. We have opened what we call as a safeguarding register. This safeguarding register, it serves to know the schools, the alaramas, that is the teacher concerned heading the schools, number of the schools, number of the children that are in the schools. We register them. Well, after we have registered them, we know them, we know where they are. And not only thinking of keeping the almajiris or to reduce the required number of children out of school, we try to find a way. Our neighboring state, where if they came in, we know in such school there are also a number of pupils or children for their educational system. We keep them so that we can day to day have the constant activities of the schools. We even give a sort of training, health training for safety keeping and healthy environment for all these children or that are learning within the Islamic system. And the second issue, one, as I have said before, the government has to come in, and the government has to play an important role here. One, by sensitization or inviting the alaramas, the head that are heading all the schools, especially Islamic schools and Quranic schools. If they can do that, they can find a way of guiding them, assisting them with the little items like mud, kettles, and other things that will sustain their living within the environment they are living to. Their health, too, has to be taken care into it. Even providing them with health personnel that will be checking from one school to another so that they can find and assist if they find any outbreak or any contagious diseases or communicable diseases within the school. And the most importantly thing that will be done to reduce the quiet number or to maintain the sustainability of keeping the children out of school. One is to train them, to have some minor skills that will guide them, to assist them to get something that will contribute toward their income. These minor skills, even local skills, like in terms of the girls, like this weaving, like mud making, or whatever it is, or even this local, we call it design on the hand. It will reduce quite a number of them. The boys, they should find a way of giving them minor skills like shoe making or shoe repair or making things that will be within the accommodated where they are living to. So I think with this, it will assist and guide. But the most important is the government to come into the aid of all Islamic and Quranic schools and give them all necessary assistance. As one of the speakers said, Dr. Kakale said, in intention, all these Islamic schools or higher Islamic schools that was built by the then president of the state, Jonathan, quite well, it has been abandoned. Most of them has been abandoned. Even those that are used on other purposes. They should go back to it and look way of improving it or to reactivate it so that they can be put in place. From there, they can be kept as a boarding school and take care of the children, and it will control the quiet number of out-of-school children roaming on the streets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aminu Hassan. Thank you for that contribution. But as we gradually begin to wind down this conversation, Dr. Adeni John, how might the media and civil society organizations, effectively raise awareness and advocate for support for out-of-school children?
Thank you so much. The media and civil society organizations have a major role to play, and the government must recognize that. The earlier the government recognizes that the media and the CSO must not be silent on this particular matter, the earlier the better. Now, the media role is to promote, project, investigate, the root causes, and of course, through investigative journalism, provide likely solution, And when this information comes to the government space, they should take it holistically. Because in other climes, when such reports, not a biased report, once they come, government look at it, investigate it, call the media and look at it. The CSO, for example, in the West African Civil Society Forum, there is education thematic group, and we have all forms of CSOs, NGOs speaking to that area, early childhood, vocational, and so on and so forth. Government should include them. Government should include them. And once they come on air and address issues that government should take seriously. For example, I know of a young guy doing investigative journalism, going to one state to another to look at infrastructural deficits in schools. What is government doing to say, you come, we know you are an asset. Please, can you give us these data? Some of these things are there, but looking at the CSO and the media as a passive enemy of the government, must be corrected. And I know there are some political NGOs, there are unprofessional medias, but for those that are professional, government should, embrace them. Let us work together, because it is only the CSO that can get the policy of the government to the grassroots, and government must quickly look at that. So the CSO, the media have a major role to play, and the government should take it seriously. Then the sustainability. You mentioned the Almajiri over 100 or something. It was abandoned. You see, government have good policies. Our policy has never been our problem. It is the sustainability.
Is the implementation.
Implementation.
Mechanism.
Sometimes they try to even, mechanism, as you said, and the sustainability. Once we have all the jamborees, we have the committee, we commission. After commissioning, the monitoring, the very strong monitoring and evaluation is never put in place. And who can actually do this monitoring and evaluation for you? Not the government officials. Professional, well-trained CSOs in this area that will bring unbiased reports, irrespective of whether political association or whatever, to see that government are held accountable for some of their promises, to the people.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. John. Lastly, let's speak to Dr. Kakali now. Do you think we need a legislation to enact a legislation to ensure that there is compulsory education for all in this country?
Well, it's possible, but that legislation should have two prongs. Compulsory education.
An accessible one.
With the responsibility on parents and communities and responsibility on government. We already have one, the Child Rights Act and the UBEC Act. And even in the Constitution, Section 18 of the Constitution says, which is in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, that government shall strive to eradicate illiteracy and shall provide free and compulsory basic education. It's a constitutional provision. But it's in Chapter 2 of the Constitution under socio-economic rights. But it's not justiciable and it's not enforceable. That's a problem. And that was why when we were in the last assembly, we attempted, I was part of those who sponsored a bill to move that section of education being compulsory, available, and accessible to Chapter 4 of the Constitution. That is chapter that has to do with fundamental human rights. So it should be enforceable and justiciable. So that if you fail to provide schools teachers, infrastructure, the Commissioner of Education, the Chairman of Basic Education, or even the governor or the government can be taken to court. So, but it's still in Chapter 2. So the legislations are there, but they are not being enforced. One beautiful thing about Nigeria is that there is no country in the whole of Africa that have so many beautiful little children that need education, that are in the school age like Nigeria. Millions of them. And I think we must do all our part to make sure that those schools, those children have quality education, productive and functional education. I emphasize productive and functional education. We are tired of, ordinary paper qualifications. And that education should truly be universal. It should accommodate all types of education. We should liberalize our education system. We should democratize it, and we should decolonize it. Honestly, whatever form of education Nigerians have, anywhere they are, assess it, add numeracy, literacy, and give them an equivalent of a basic education, and assign them as educated. And then they'll go on with their lives. They're going to be law-abiding citizens. Let them know their civic rights and contribute to the development of this country.
All right, Dr. Kakale, we've got to go. Thank you very much for your time and thoughts on Good Morning Nigeria today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, NTA. You have been doing a great job, really.
Thank you.
Educating and enlightening Nigerians.
Let me also thank Dr. Adeni John, who is the founder of Global Education Initiative. It's been a pleasure having your contributions on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And from Kano, let us also thank the Executive Chairman of the Quranic and Islamia Schools Management Board, Aminu Hassan. Thank you for joining us on this conversation. And that's Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you very much for watching. I am Victor, as we'll see you again tomorrow.
And I am Ademola Adeoye. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.